The banners of 17 suns shimmered above the throne station's grand hall, each one representing a civilization that had managed miraculously not to annihilate the others for 1,700 years. The peace treaty had become more religion than law, recited at births and funerals, printed on currency, whispered before battle simulations. But today, under the molten chandeliers of the Varelian court, peace itself looked exhausted, old, ceremonial, brittle as glassware. General Evelyn Heart of Earth arrived precisely 43 seconds late. That was deliberate. Humans understood theater better than any species in the galaxy. Her boots clicked softly across obsidian floors that reflected entire galaxies beneath her. Around her, alien dignitaries craned necks, flicked tongues, pulsed colors. Most had never seen a human in person. They whispered that she looked too small, too plain, too mortal. The woman wore the plain navy uniform of the Terran coalition, not the jeweled robes favored by the other ambassadors. Her hair was cropped short, silvered from stress rather than style, and her only ornament was a thin gold ring, visible only when the light caught it. The Galactic King, seated upon his organic throne grown from living coral and molten metal, watched her with the weary contempt of a god forced to entertain insects. His eyes were twin molten suns, his crown hummed with telepathic resonance. He had ruled for 800 years. The rumor went that he'd signed the treaty purely to keep his wars interesting. Evelyn bowed, perfectly shallow, enough to be polite, not enough to be submissive. Your Majesty, on behalf of humanity, I bring greetings, gratitude, and caffeine. Polite laughter rippled through the hall. Her aide, a young ensign with trembling hands, presented the king with a small porcelain cup. Steam rose from it, fragrant, alien to them all. What is this? The king asked. Coffee, Evelyn said cheerfully. Our most sacred peacekeeping tool. Prevents wars before breakfast. The king sniffed the cup, grimaced. Bitter. Yes, she said softly. Peace often is. The room quieted. For a moment, her words hung like frost. Then a dozen alien courtiers began clicking and trilling their approval. Humans were known for clever idioms, after all. The king forced a smile. They began the ceremony. Each delegate recited their vow of peace, their words projected across the chamber in iridescent script. Evelyn's turn came last. She stepped forward, hands clasped behind her back. We stand in remembrance, she said, of what we once were, beasts with too much curiosity and not enough caution. We sought meaning in stars that wanted nothing from us, and somehow found neighbors instead of enemies. Today, we honor that miracle. Her voice carried a warmth that unsettled the cold-blooded species present. Humanity had a way of making sincerity sound like a promise, and a threat. When the king rose to answer, the floor trembled slightly. General Heart of Earth, he began, tone rich with sarcasm. Your kind has a talent for dramatics. Yet, I confess, I find it difficult to celebrate a peace that you so often tested. She smiled faintly. Your Majesty, humans test things to make sure they work. It's our nature. He chuckled, though the sound was dry as static. Your nature. A chaos wrapped in skin. Order grows dull without a little chaos, she replied. Ask your poets. The audience chuckled again, charmed and unnerved by her composure. Even the king's advisors exchanged uncertain looks. Only the king's golden eyes remained unamused. You speak as if chaos were virtue, he said. It kept us alive, she answered. And curious. A hush fell. The king leaned forward. Curious. Yes. That was your kind's downfall once. You burned your own world for curiosity. True, she said. Then we learned to rebuild. We found out what fire could teach. Something in her tone, soft, nostalgic, fearless, brushed against the king's pride like sandpaper. The court sensed it, the slow gathering of storm beneath civility. He rose, stepping down from his throne, towering over her by several feet. His robes shimmered like a solar flare. You stand in my hall, human, under my peace. You come unarmed, unguarded, and speak as though you hold dominion. Evelyn tilted her head slightly, studying him with the same calm curiosity one might offer an unpredictable child. "I speak as one who remembers how fragile peace is," she said, "and how quickly it bleeds when wounded by arrogance." The king's hand twitched. Perhaps he meant to gesture dismissively. Perhaps the weight of centuries made him reckless. His ceremonial plasma pistol, more ornament than weapon, slid free of its holster in one careless motion. The crowd gasped. Evelyn didn't move. "Careful, Your Majesty," she murmured. "Safety's off." "Do you threaten me?" he roared, his voice booming through the neural amplifiers built into the walls. "I warned you," she said simply. The pistol flashed once, brilliant white, a streak of molten lightning through perfumed air. The sound was not thunder but a soft, wet pop. The beam punched through her chest, burning the Terran insignia into ash. Time fractured. Evelyn staggered back, one hand rising to her wound. The scent of scorched fabric filled the hall. Gasps became screams, translated across species. Guards rushed forward, too late. The Galactic King stared at his smoking weapon, horror dawning too slow to matter. Evelyn sank to her knees. The obsidian floor mirrored her face, calm, strangely gentle. A single drop of blood struck the reflective surface, blooming crimson against black. She looked up at the king. Her voice was quiet, almost tender. "You just ended your species, Your Majesty." Then she smiled, small, weary, and impossibly human, and fell still. The hall froze in absolute silence. Even the translation drones hesitated, uncertain how to interpret her final words. The king stammered something about accident, about misunderstanding. But the damage had already escaped the walls. Every broadcast drone, every diplomatic feed, every security lens had captured the moment in perfect clarity. Within minutes, the image would ripple through the galaxy. The mighty Varelian monarch murdering the Terran peace envoy in cold blood. Somewhere in the audience, an alien aide whispered in terror. "She smiled before she died." Far beyond the throne station, in the endless dark between suns, something ancient and human stirred awake. Silent fleets, long hidden within drifting nebulae, opened their eyes to starlight. Communications flickered off across human space, one system after another, a spreading hush that felt less like retreat and more like inhalation before the scream. Back in the hall, the king dropped his pistol. Its echo rang like a verdict. The banners of 17 suns fluttered above him, their colors dimming under the artificial light. The aides moved to lift Evelyn's body, but one of them froze. A faint pulse flickered beneath her collarbone, then stopped. The lights of the station flickered too, a brief, synchronized heartbeat. And in that single blink of darkness, across 1,000 systems, a dormant signal transmitted. The footage of General Evelyn Hart's death spread through the galaxy faster than light, faster than reason. In the first hour, every screen from the ice cities of Keleth Prime to the floating palaces of the Varelian Empire replayed the same sequence. A shot, a fall, a smile that looked too calm for mortality. The oldest peace in known history, 17 suns bound by faith and fear, fractured in a single heartbeat. No one spoke of diplomacy. They spoke of consequences. The Galactic Council convened in panic on neutral ground. A hollow moon turned into a parliament centuries ago. Delegates argued in 600 languages, each one a different kind of dread. The air itself trembled with the static of translation. Some demanded human extermination, others begged restraint, all spoke over one another until meaning dissolved. "They will retaliate," rasped the Rilken admiral, his translucent throat pulsing with alarm. "Humans never forgive." "They can't retaliate," sneered the Varelian regent, newly crowned and visibly trembling. "Their fleets are small. Their population negligible. They rely on outdated combustion drives and superstition." The Calithian chancellor, smooth-scaled and famously logical, tapped his claws against the council table. Underestimating them would be unwise. "Why?" asked the regent, too young to remember the last real war. The chancellor's voice dropped. "Because when they say nothing, something is coming." That silence stretched across the stars. Earth did not respond. The Terran coalition shut down all diplomatic channels. Human colonies stopped transmitting. Even the orbital markets where humans sold their endless inventions, cheap reactors, miracle fibers, songs that could make metal weep, went dark. The media called it the quiet. On the third day, alien analysts tried to decrypt the final moments of the broadcast. They slowed the footage, enhanced frames, traced micro-expressions. One Calithian linguist swore he saw Evelyn's eyes flicker. 2 rapid blinks, an ancient Earth military code for execute protocol. Others dismissed it as a death twitch. But paranoia had already begun to breed. Across Varelian space, cities erupted in panic buying, then in riots. People whispered that human ghosts haunted their comms. Old ships reported phantom signals, laughter, static, faint snippets of Terran radio. In the mining colonies of the Outer Belt, workers refused to handle Terran tech, fearing it might wake. Meanwhile, on Earth, the ocean reflected quiet skies. President Dalton, a man who looked more like a retired mechanic than a head of state, stood in the Oval Room watching the sunrise through the glass. His aide burst in, breathless. "Sir, the Galactic King, he killed her." On live transmission. The entire council's in chaos. Dalton didn't move. He poured 2 cups of coffee, handed one over. "I told them never to shoot the polite ones." "Sir." He sipped, unbothered. When a human smiles during an argument, that's your last warning. The aide stared. "Should we mobilize?" "Already done," Dalton said softly. "They just don't know it yet." He turned to the window, watching the faint glimmer of satellites winking in orbit like stars too orderly for nature. "She triggered it, didn't she?" "Yes, sir. Lazarus protocols confirmed. The fleets are waking." Dalton nodded. "Then God help the galaxy." Back on the council moon, rumors fermented into hysteria. Alien spies intercepted fragments of coded transmissions between abandoned Terran outposts, strings of words that made no sense. "Forgive the living," Red Sky verified. "Play track 11. One operative foolishly played the audio file. It was an old Earth song, static-ridden, a woman's voice crooning about heartbreak. Every listening device on the ship melted. Governments declared martial law. Propaganda blared. Humanity seeks revenge. Prepare defenses. Armadas reassembled around capital worlds, weapons gleaming like nervous teeth. Yet the attacks never came. Humanity remained unseen, unheard, unfathomable. The Varelian regent broadcast an apology. Grand, theatrical, insincere. "Let this tragedy not end the peace we have so dearly cherished." He promised reparations, offered trade concessions, even proposed a monument to Evelyn Hart. The transmission lasted 7 minutes before cutting to static. Seconds later, every Varelian ship in orbit received a private message. Just 3 words. "We heard you." No sender. No trace. No explanation. Panic turned surgical. The regent's advisors dissected every signal trace, desperate to find origin points. All routes led nowhere, except one faint ping from deep interstellar space, a region once charted as empty. The Calithian intelligence director requested permission to investigate. He led a small exploratory fleet to the coordinates. What they found was not emptiness but silence made visible. Hundreds of derelict satellites orbiting nothing, forming a precise sphere. On one of them, etched into the metal, were human words. "Do not disturb the graves." The fleet retreated immediately. In the days that followed, strange events multiplied. A Varelian patrol near the human border reported an entire asteroid belt rearranged overnight into perfect concentric rings. A merchant convoy claimed to see a massive silhouette moving behind Jupiter's shadow, larger than any known vessel, vanishing when sensors aligned. Across multiple worlds, automated weather systems began playing Earth lullabies instead of alerts. By the 10th day, the galaxy stopped pretending this was coincidence. The Chancellor called another emergency council. "We must find them," he said, "before they decide what we are worth." An older ambassador, a reptilian monk from the cold moons of Salith, closed his eyes. "They already decided. They are merely waiting for the funeral to begin." The regent slammed his claws on the table. "This is superstition." Humanity cannot fight the combined might of 17 suns. The monk opened one eye. Do you believe they need to? Silence. Then, from the far corner of the chamber, a young translator trembled and whispered, "Sir, there's been another transmission." All eyes turned. The central display flickered to life, showing only text, ancient Terran font, white on black. "Do not enter soul. Do not interfere with humanity's grief." Then the feed cut again. The council erupted once more, but the chancellor sat perfectly still, staring at the fading words. He remembered a centuries-old report, an archived study from the first contact era describing human psychology. One phrase stood out. Humans will endure endless provocation, but vengeance, once chosen, is ritual, not strategy. He whispered to no one in particular. It's not war they're preparing. It's ceremony. Beyond the chamber walls, across the void, the human systems glowed dimly. Planets shrouded, stations silent, lights extinguished like a house darkened for mourning. But deep within that darkness, something pulsed, rhythmic and patient, like a giant heartbeat sinking across light years. A lone Varelian patrol ship drifted near the Terran border. The crew scanned empty space. Nothing but dust, silence, and the slow hum of the void. Then a flicker, brief, like a reflection of movement where none should be. The youngest officer leaned forward. "Did you see that?" "Probably a ghost echo," his captain said, uneasy. The flicker returned, longer this time. It wasn't a ship, not quite. More like a shadow cast by something enormous, invisible to sensors but visible to instinct. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. "Record it. Then run." As the ship turned, a low signal brushed their comms, barely audible, like someone humming an old Earth tune. The captain froze. "That's human." The signal cut. A single line of text appeared on the navigation screen. "Don't be afraid. We're just getting ready." The first sound Evelyn Hart heard when she awoke was the slow drip of coolant on metal. It echoed through the cryo bay like a clock marking the seconds she had stolen back from death. Her vision flickered, then steadied, the world sharp and cold, lit by the pale blue pulse of emergency lights. The medpod's lid hissed open, releasing a thin fog that coiled like ghosts above her. Her chest burned faintly where the plasma bolt had entered. She pressed her palm there and found no wound. Only the raised texture of a bio-seal patch, warm under her touch. A voice came from the shadows. "You always did have a flair for dramatic exits, ma'am." Evelyn turned her head. Commander Ruiz leaned against the bulkhead, arms folded, his uniform unbuttoned at the throat. His eyes were tired but alive with relief. "How long?" she asked. 72 hours since the king decided peace looked better with a hole through it. She sat up slowly. The motion made her muscles tremble. "Status?" "The galaxy's losing its mind," Ruiz said. "Council's in chaos. Every species blames the other. And the Varelians, well, they're preparing for an invasion that's already happened." Evelyn swung her legs out of the pod and stood, ignoring the dizziness. "And Lazarus?" "Operational," he said, a trace of pride in his voice. "Fleet's awake. Every hidden ship. Every sleeper cell. Every contingency you buried in the dark. They're waiting for your word." She smiled faintly. "Good. Let them wait a moment longer. Waiting terrifies them more than war." She walked toward the observation window. Beyond it, the void glimmered with distant suns. Between them, shadows moved. Colossal human ships that had slept for centuries under false registry and alien camouflage. Each bore a name burned into history. Verdun, Midway, Nagasaki, Thermopylae. Symbols not of pride, but of what happened when humanity was pushed too far. Ruiz joined her. "They keep asking me, ma'am, why did you let him shoot you? You could have stopped him." Evelyn's reflection in the glass smiled, weary and knowing. "Because peace built on fear doesn't last. But outrage unites. You planned this." "I prepared for it," she said quietly. "He made the choice. I just made sure it mattered." The ship hummed as systems came fully online. Across the fleet, thousands of human officers stirred from cryo, their minds linked to encrypted command nets. They weren't shouting orders. They were praying, softly, in their own languages, for patience, for clarity, for justice. Evelyn keyed into the primary comm. All stations, this is General Hart. Lazarus protocol confirmed. Maintain dark operations until further directive. No preemptive strikes. No transmissions. We act only when the galaxy truly understands what it's unleashed. A chorus of affirmations echoed through the net, calm and disciplined. Humanity's deadliest soldiers had learned restraint, not mercy, but precision. Ruiz frowned. They'll keep pushing, ma'am. Probes, scouts, border tests. How long do we wait? Until they see the storm, she said. Not the lightning. Hours passed like centuries. Reports streamed in, alien fleets moving, colonies evacuating, panic spreading. The galaxy's nerves were frayed to shreds. And still, humanity waited. Evelyn reviewed intelligence streams, her face unreadable. Then, finally, the Varelians fired the first shot. A forward human observation post, nothing more than a disguised mining station, was obliterated. The act was broadcast live across alien networks, meant to display dominance. Instead, it signed the galaxy's death warrant. Evelyn stood at the command table, hands resting on its edge. 70 years, she murmured. Ruiz looked at her, confused. Ma'am? 70 years I've served in uniform. I've watched peace used as a leash. Now they've cut it. She straightened. Order initiation of Phase 1. Ruiz hesitated. Phase 1's a ghost operation. No signatures. No survivors. Her eyes softened, almost kind. Then let them learn how ghosts fight. Across the fleet, silent orders rippled outward. Ships powered engines without heat trails. Drones awoke and vanished into hyperspace corridors unseen by alien sensors. The first targets were not cities, but communications relays, listening arrays, and navigation buoys. Within hours, half the Varelian defense network went dark, not destroyed but rewritten, every system transmitting a single Earth phrase on repeat. Patience is over. Evelyn watched the data feeds cascade. Alien transmissions degenerated into chaos, accusations, threats, cries for help. Their fleets launched blindly, colliding with each other in the confusion. Ma'am, Ruiz said softly, this will start a war we can't end. She turned to him, eyes bright with conviction. You think this started today? This started the moment they decided peace was weakness. A tremor ran through the deck as the flagship's main batteries came online, not to fire, but to illuminate. Through the forward viewport, a star seemed to ignite where there was none. It was a beacon, an ancient human symbol projected across the void, the olive branch wreathed in flame. Evelyn's voice carried over every ship in the fleet. 17 centuries we held our hands open. Today, we close them. Her words became a wave. Fleets moved in perfect silence, invisible but unstoppable. When they struck, it was not with explosions but erasure. Systems failing without warning, energy grids inverted, armies surrendering to shadows they couldn't see. Entire worlds went quiet. Humanity's war was not destruction, it was revelation. Ruiz watched the tactical maps fade from red to black. You said we'd wait for them to understand. What are we showing them? That mercy was the weapon, she said. And they shattered it. Hours later, reports confirmed the Varelian capital's surrender attempt. The message reached them in fragments, distorted, terrified. Evelyn listened, then nodded. Hold position. Accept their surrender. Then broadcast everything they did. No edits. No commentary. Let the galaxy judge them. Ruiz blinked. You're giving them their voice back? I'm giving them a mirror, she replied. They'll destroy themselves faster than we could. Outside, the stars burned like distant eyes, witnesses to another chapter of humanity's contradiction. Kindness with claws. Evelyn sank into the command chair, exhaustion threading through her bones. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel it, the grief buried beneath strategy. He killed me for speaking softly, she whispered. He'll die for not listening. Ruiz said nothing. There was nothing to say. The hum of the engines filled the silence, steady as a heartbeat. Then the proximity alarm chirped once. A faint anomaly, massive energy buildup on long-range sensors. Ruiz frowned. That's not us. Evelyn leaned forward. Put it on screen. The display shimmered. In the darkness beyond their fleet, something vast moved. Too geometrically perfect to be natural, too silent to be alive. For a moment, it looked like a planet made of mirrors, unfolding. Then the signal stabilized, revealing a structure, Varelian design, but impossibly large, glowing with stolen human tech. Ruiz swore under his breath. They built a countermeasure. A weapon. Evelyn's lips curved into a smile. Not amused, not angry, but predatory. Then the storm begins. The mirror world unfolded like a flower of glass, petal after petal glinting with stolen starlight. It dwarfed every ship in the human fleet, a halo of refracted suns orbiting an empty core. From a distance it looked beautiful, holy, even. But beauty had always been the universe's cruelest camouflage. General Evelyn Hart stood at the forward viewport of the USS Jerusalem, hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes reflected the shimmering weapon the Varelians had built from their own arrogance and stolen human engineering. They call it the Halo engine, Ruiz murmured beside her. A planetary scale emitter. Siphons stellar energy, turns it into, well, pure unfiltered death. Evelyn's expression didn't change. They made it too big to control. They made it to erase us, he said. Every human world in one sweep. Then they'll learn what happens when you teach humans how to build better guns. She turned, voice steady. Begin Operation Eclipse. Ruiz hesitated. We'll lose half the fleet. Half the fleet buys the other half tomorrow. The bridge came alive. Command lights bled crimson. Thrusters ignited like dawn in reverse. Across the void, human ships emerged from stealth, hundreds, then thousands, appearing one by one, their surfaces flickering with mirrored hulls that reflected enemy scanners back into static. They formed a silent stormfront before the Halo engine. The Varelian king, still alive, still defiant, appeared on the transmission screen. His once regal face was drawn and pale, but his pride had not dimmed. Human, he spat. You rise from death only to meet it again. This time, there will be no smile. Evelyn regarded him as one might a child who had never learned. You've mistaken mercy for weakness. Again. The king sneered. You cannot stop a star from burning. She smiled faintly. No. But we can make it choke on its own light. She ended the call and turned to her crew. Deploy the mirrors. In perfect unison, smaller Terran vessels detached, forming geometric patterns around the Halo engine. Thousands of reflective plates unfolded, aligning like the petals of a mechanized lotus. The Varelians watched in confusion. Their superweapon powered up, unaware that the humans were shaping the very battlefield. The Halo flared to life, a sun birthed from machinery. A wave of white radiance surged outward, swallowing everything in its path. Ruiz shouted, Impact in 7 seconds. Evelyn's voice remained calm. Hold formation. The light struck the mirror net. For one impossible instant, the universe glowed brighter than creation. Then, instead of annihilation, the beam bent, redirected, refracted, multiplied. 1,000 identical streams split from the original, arcing backward, turning the weapon's fury against itself. The Halo screamed, a planetary howl. Energy rippled through its latticework, eating its creators alive. The king's fleet scattered, but the reflection followed them like judgment. Worlds lit by the same star dimmed as their power grids overloaded. Ruiz gripped the console. They're imploding. Let them finish what they started, Evelyn said. One by one, the Halo's petals collapsed inward, shards of mirror raining across space like broken promises. The light faded, leaving silence and drifting debris. Humanity's fleet remained, scarred, but alive. For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge crew simply stared at the dying light, the wreckage of an empire dissolving into dust. Ruiz's voice finally broke the quiet. We did it. Evelyn's gaze stayed on the void. No. We ended it. He frowned. Isn't that the same thing? Not for us. She turned to him, the weariness in her eyes ancient. Victory is their word. Ours is consequence. A soft chime interrupted her. An incoming message, not from the Varelians, but from the Galactic Council itself. The screen filled with faces, reptilian, crystalline, avian, translucent. They looked shaken. The Calithian Chancellor spoke first. General Hart. The Council extends condolences and surrender. The peace treaty is hereby reinstated under human authority. Evelyn tilted her head. Peace by declaration is nothing but silence written down. We ask only for coexistence, the Chancellor pleaded. You had coexistence, she said. You turned it into target practice. Another delegate, the avian high speaker, interjected nervously. What will humanity demand? Evelyn stepped closer to the screen, her voice quiet and devastating. Nothing. That's what terrifies you, isn't it? That we don't need to rule you to ruin you. The transmission ended before anyone could answer. The screen went black, leaving only the reflection of her own face, calm, scarred, illuminated by dying stars. Ruiz exhaled, a half-laugh, half-sigh. So what now? Reconstruction? Retribution? She turned away. Remembrance. The word carried a strange gravity. Across human space, fleets received coded orders. They didn't pursue. They didn't occupy. Instead, they shut down their engines and drifted, a constellation of silent sentinels watching the galaxy heal, or tremble. Days later, the remnants of the Varelian Empire transmitted one final plea: asylum for their civilians. Evelyn approved it immediately. The council protested, but she ignored them. If we don't show mercy now, she said to Ruiz, we'll never be able to claim we had it in the first place. The ships began evacuations under Terran escort. Alien refugees looked upon the humans not as saviors, but as forces of nature, indifferent yet absolute. Ruiz found Evelyn alone in the observation dome that night, staring at the faint shimmer of Earth rising in the viewport. You could have destroyed them, he said quietly. I already did, she replied. Not their bodies. Their certainty. He studied her face, seeing the cost behind the calm. Does it ever stop weighing on you? She smiled, small and tired. The weight reminds me I'm still human. Silence filled the space between them, vast and alive. Beyond the glass, the debris of the halo drifted like frozen ash. Some pieces still reflected light, tiny stars scattered by human hands. Ruiz finally asked, what do we tell the people back home? Tell them peace survived, she said. But not because of the treaty. Because we remembered what it cost. She reached into her pocket and drew out a small object, a golden ring, once dull, now polished clean. She set it on the console, watching it catch the starlight. 1700 years of peace, she whispered. It took one shot to break it, and one choice to restore it. Alarms suddenly blipped, a faint energy pulse, far off the charted grid. Ruiz tensed. Residual from the halo? Evelyn shook her head slowly. No. That's a human frequency. The data cleared. It wasn't from any known fleet. A new signal, faint but steady, pulsed in Terran code. One phrase repeated every 10 seconds. Ruiz leaned closer, reading it aloud. Protocol Phoenix, confirmed. He froze. That's impossible. We never. Evelyn's eyes lifted, catching the reflection of distant light blooming in the dark. New ships, unmarked, emerging from hyperspace, human designs but older, stranger. Ones she had never authorized. She smiled faintly, almost wistful. Looks like Earth had a contingency for my contingency. Ruiz stared at her. General, what does this mean? Her voice softened, threaded with both awe and resignation. It means humanity learned from me too well. Outside, the stars began to move again, rearranging themselves into formations too deliberate for chance. A second fleet, unseen until now, cast its shadow over the wreckage of empires. Evelyn closed her eyes and whispered. The apex returns.